Hello, Namaste. I welcome you all to the 50th session of Gurubodha with Dr. M.V. Guraja sir and Dr. Raghuram sir. I'm the convener, Dr. Janardana V. Hebbar, founder of easyayurveda.com. I dedicate this and all of my works at the holy feet of Dr. A. Chandrasekhar Udupa. Starting with the questions, there is a lot of confusion with respect to honey, whether it is Ushna or whether it is Shita or whether it is Anushna Sheta, and also the newly collected honey sort of behaves a little bit differently than old honey. And there is a famous Shangara reference that honey is also good to use beyond 1 year. Navanyeva hi yojani in that shloka. So, brother sir, can you please decipher various utility of honey, whether it's hot or cold, or in potency, or and also new versus old, which one to use where, please, sir?
See, when we look into our Samhitas and Granthas and Nigantus, we will find different kinds of honey has been mentioned with the different names as well. But all of those which are Samhitokta may not be available in present context. Presently, we can classify the available honey based on the type of honeybees, and of course even the quality of the honey varies according to the source from where these honeybees are collecting the honey. So if it is from the rubber plantation or it is from the valley where Floranja flower, so based on that from where the sources it is collecting, the color, consistency and their taste also varies in this fashion. So first of all, we need to know that all honey, it may be Nava or Purana, mean an old one or a new one. All honey is comparatively Ruksha. Of course, it is Kashaya Madhura in Rasa, and in Vipaka it is comparatively Katu. Because of that Katu Vipaka and Kashaya Rasa predominancy, it is also indicated or expected to use in Prameha also. In some of the contexts, Acharyas have given references in the quote where we can use it. But the issue is getting this honey in a very pure form. When we depend on market, many times there may be some admixtures or it may be some contaminations. Otherwise, if we know the beekeepers, from them we are collecting the honey, means it will be comparatively better one. But honey which is freshly collected is also Ruksha, but when compared to the honey which is 1 year old or 6 months old or 2 years old or 5 years old, it will be more Ruksha than the fresh one. So in order to reduce weight or something like that, for that intention if you are using the honey, then it is better to use honey which is older one. Daily requirement or just for sake of food ingredient, if you want to take it, then it is a fresh honey is good enough. And honey is used in a multiple ways. Honey is best Anupana. It's a good vehicle to carry many of our materials, drugs, churnas, and even rasaushadis, very deep into the tissues and very easily takes it into the circulatory system, because this honey is already a somewhat a pre-digested material. So it very easily absorbs from the body. Second thing, the honey is also very good to skin as well as the ulcers. Wherever there is a wound or ulcer, applying honey will definitely make it heal fast. And honey definitely acts against kapha. It reduces the mala of kapha, as well as it also helps in removal of mala kapha from the pranava shrotas. And of course, it is a very good rejuvenative also to some extent in the beginning, because of its anurasa is madhura. But generally, it is drying in nature. This honey may be of old one or a new one. On longer usage, it will definitely going to reduce the body bulk.
Question to Raghuram sir. In the context of honey being heated, only in Vamana procedure, only in the basti it is used because it is getting eliminated. Otherwise, heating of honey is contraindicated. Can you please explain regarding that?
Coming to the Vamana karma, so when we see when the honey is used there, see we need to see why and how we are using honey and how long it stays in the body. So like if it is given as vehicle or anupana or sahapana as Guruji sir was telling, so it is used to convey like a vehicle. It is used to convey the medicine and the medicinal properties to different tissues or the target areas where the medicine needs to act. So the honey acts in that way. So when we come to Vamana karma, so in emesis, when we are saying therapeutic emesis, it is short stayed in the body. So whenever the madhu stays for a short duration in the body, there the Ushna Samskara, though it is Samskara Viruddha, so like heating the honey is contraindicated in the text. Many people have been using it, but even with the hot things like hot stuffs with hot milk they are mixing and taking, we don't get too many complaints about that. But direct heating of honey, I don't think anybody does that. So as it is said in Ayurveda, probably we also need to see as a habit. So whenever Ayurveda has mentioned certain things, it is as a habit. As a habit, it should not be done. Okay, we can find similar things, similar such references in Panchakarma indications like Vamana indications, Virechana indications, Snehana indications, Svedana indications, and contraindications. Also, there are certain things which will put a Panchakarma practitioner or an Ayurvedic practitioner into total confusion, where the Acharya mentions that the Sneha should not be given in a particular condition or Vamana should not be given in a particular condition. But when we get to the indication of something else, that will be mentioned there. So like what to do, whether to administer there, should not administer, we should think over the process there. So here, wherever Sneha is contraindicated, like wherever Vamana is contraindicated, we need to think in a perspective that only Vamana should not be given. Like whenever Sneha is contraindicated, we should think that only Sneha is contraindicated. Like after Snehana, when you are proceeding with the Svedana and then Vamana or Virechana or whatever therapy, it can be given, it is permissible. So here, for indications and contraindications, the conditions apply. When Svedana is contraindicated for somebody, sedation or fermentation or any heat procedure, Acharyas want to tell that only Svedana is contraindicated. But if you are giving Snehana and then Svedana, it is okay. It is indicated. So conditions apply. We need to understand the conditions and the perspective and why the Acharya has explained. Coming back to the honey, without wasting much time, honey, since in Vamana or other therapies, it is short stayed in the system. So it goes as a heat process. It is a part of the heat process. The medicine is heated and given. So their madhu is a part of the heat process, and the role of honey is not to make any medicine reach the system or reach the tissues or do something. Here it is given for therapeutic cleansing, and along with that, see what still we will go into the depth of this particular issue. So whenever Acharya has contraindicated madhu should not be heated, what exactly does it mean? So it becomes a type of toxin inside, isn't it? So Vamanopaga and all those things, whatever we are giving, the medicines we are giving before administration of Vamana, they are also irritants only. They are just meant to create an environment in the stomach wherein it creates an ideal environment to flush the things out. So here, heating the honey for a short duration or the madhu and gruta mixing them in equal proportions may act like an antigen in the body, which will help in provoking the antibodies. So that also we should be looking at. But in the therapies as far as we are seeing, the heating process is for a short duration. The contact of the heated honey inside the system is for a short duration, and it is a part of the formulation. We should say it is a part of the Vamana formulation, entire formulation, and we are not giving just honey or heated honey or boiled honey. We are not giving. It is a part. It is a small part, like in a formulation. Pipali is a small part of Panchakola, just like honey is a small part of the Vamana Dravya. So here it is a small part. It is involved in the heat process, but a small part of heat it takes, and it lives in the system or in the stomach for a short duration. After that, along with the Vamana Dravya, it is eliminated. So no harm intended there, and no harm is caused by honey in this particular process. So we need to see the significance of the mention of the heated or not heated madhu or anything what we are taking, and in what situation, what perspective it has been said, and therapeutically, does it carry a value or not? So when we deeply analyze everything, I think has a logic. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Raghuram. All the things honey is told as primary remedy for kapha dosha, as similar to sesame oil for vata dosha and ghee, cow ghee for pitta dosha. But in the Bhava Prakasha Madhu Varga, there he explains Navam Madhu Bhavet Pushyaihi Na Ati Shleshma Haram Saram Puranam Grahakam Ruksham Medognam Ati Lekanam. So from your previous description, it is clear that still the honey is ruksha and it does shleshma hara or it does anti-kapha effect. But compared to only the older one, probably not so much. Right, sir?
Yes, older one is more ruksha and it is more medohara, and ati lekana property is attributed to the Purana Madhu. Whereas Navamadhu is little bit of moisture content, maybe it's a combination or maybe the particles are not settled down, something like that. But it is an observation from the acharyas that it is also Shleshmahara, but when compared to the old one, it is not so much. That we need to understand. But very difficult to get in the market knowing that whether it is a old honey or a new honey. Nobody will put a label while labeling on this one that is collected on so and so date and manufactured, bottled on so and so date. No, nothing. So as a mandatory part of it, label we may have some manufacturing date, but we don't know exactly the same date they are collected it, they are purified it, they are packed it. We need to believe them. That's all. So when we are collecting it personally through a honeybee keeper, then it will be chances of that we are getting very clearly the new or the Nava Madhu. When compared to Purana Madhu, the Nava Madhu is not so Stula Hara. It will be comparatively having a little bit of maybe a concept of Vamana, you can take it as moisture will be more, something like that. Just like in case of Nava Pippali and Purana Pippali are the fresh one and the dry one, the similar type of things are there. And regarding the heating of honey, acharyas are very clear in telling that why this should not be done. If you heat honey and consume it, what will happen? Instantly nothing may happen. Or some people may get a severe adverse reactions. But if you make it a habit of consuming these things for a long duration, definitely it is going to disturb your maybe genetic levels, or it maybe even it's going to disturb your the gene chromosomes level, maybe, I don't know exactly. But definitely it may reach out to be some autoimmune disorder or something like that. It may disturb in various levels. That's a very clear what our acharyas have said. Certain things should be taken as it is. That's the reason we have one of the important source of knowing the knowledge is from Aptopadesha. Whenever Apta says it, it is our duty to just to follow it. I still remember one of my gurus in Jaipur when I used to doing my MD during those days, when we used to say that we are research scholars. He used to scold us. What research you are going to do, bloody idiots? You are just follow the things which is told by acharyas. That's enough. That's more than enough. You try to understand first those things, then you do research. You are not able having the capacity or ability to do the research of what acharyas have said. Your just ability is to just to grab what acharyas said. That is more than enough. He used to scold us. And really I find it many times it is true. Because whatever our acharyas have said and done, it is so vast and so minute observation were there. Definitely we need a lot of time to understand that. As Dr. Raghuram said, that heating and giving the madhu in case of Vamana or even for the Basti Karma and all those things, where the dravya needs to come back out once again along with the doshas. It won't stay for more time in the body. So that may not be causing any problem. Whereas when we are using it for anupana purpose, where our need to give the medicine to carry it to the particular tissues or target tissues, we need to take that help. And of course, our Acharya is very clear in that don't heat it. So don't do it. And even usually I suggest even to my patient that not to mix it even with hot water. Why you want to make unnecessary things? You want to experiment with yourself. When Acharya said, don't do it, don't do it. You can take it as it is, the room temperature, whatever the honey is that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I vote what Gurubodha sir has said. Even my acharyas, my teachers, I had very few teachers, of course, but whoever were there, they used to tell research is not at all needed in Ayurveda. There are time-tested formulations, those things. And one more thing I want to focus is, even I said, and Gurubodha sir also said that, so that is very true. As a habit, we need to see always that word is very important, habit. When we regularly take heated honey or add honey to hot water or hot beverages or something and keep on taking that, so probably some people have a habit of preparing hot lemon tea, some herbal tea, and adding honey to that. So this is a brave experiment, a courageous experiment, which can put them into some problems. So they are not looking at from the Ayurvedic perspective, but they may have some problem later, but they may not be able to correlate it to the madhu which has been heated or used with the heated substance. So a regular habit, anything contraindicated in Ayurveda is as a matter of regular practice. We should not be doing it. Once we practice it for a regular time, definitely its bad effects will be seen. And when we come to research, Ayurvedic acharyas, the aptas, aptopadeshas are the best products of the research already, and not just challenge those statements or whatever they have said. Why to take unnecessary risk and do some challenging and also some courageous activity? This is only atisahasa, so it goes into the mithya yoga. So where our intellectual blasphemy, we call it as our prajnaparada. Knowingly we do certain things which will put us in a position of harm. So probably many people will not be correlating what is the nidana. For so many problems we cannot track down the nidana. So a constant practice of things like this may put us into a position of danger, may not be immediately. It again depends on how our immune system is fighting against that those antigens or the bad combinations, as Acharya has explained. Many types of viruddha ahara, this is also one type of viruddha. So maybe our interiors may be trying to tackle that situation, or something which is not needed for the system for a pretty long time, but when they are tired, they give up. When they give up, our body will definitely suffer. So this we need to see from a longer perspective in the long run.
Another point that you mentioned, Dr. Raghuramji, was that for a disease, if Vamana is not advised, this Virechana is advised. So doing Vamana as Purva Karma for Virechana is okay.
Absolutely. See, when Vamana is contraindicated, Acharya is trying to tell just don't give Vamaka Dravya to that person. If you have given Snehana and Svedana before that, it is okay. We have to see the pre-context and also the post-context. So that is the beauty of Ayurvedic chapters also. See, in Charaka or even Madhava Nidana, say for example, in any text we see, a previous chapter is connected to the next chapter and that chapter is connected to the next chapter. So like a pre-context and the post-context, there is a very clear explanation by the Tikakaras why this chapter has been explained after this particular chapter. So similar logic applies here also. If Virechana is contraindicated, that means to tell that only Virechana. Please don't give a direct Virechana to that particular person. Try to see logically which type of Virechana fits in. And if you are going with Snehana and Svedana as pre-procedures, it is well and good. You can go ahead. But this rule also is not applicable to all the conditions. Like, for example, giving Virechana in intestinal perforation. It is not conditional. It is a rule. Don't give Virechana when the person is having intestinal perforation or some surgical condition or some shalya deep inside the body. So for some conditions, definitely it is applicable contraindications. For some conditions, we need to see if pre-context is applicable there. And coming to one more point to add with Madhu, Dr. Ishwar Reddy, so we call one word used by Guruji sir also, that it is nutritive and also supportive honey. In some conditions, we need to see the source of honey very importantly. Dr. Ishwar Reddy sir was very much into the expertise into the Vata Vyadhis and also the skin disorders. They used to tell there is no skin disease which Ishwar Reddy sir cannot treat, and Vata Vyadhis especially coming to Vata Vyadhis and some selective conditions, he used to prescribe Madhudaka. So that is the honey water where equal quantity of madhu and water are mixed together, especially in Vata Vikaras. When Dr. Hebar also raised a question, honey is used for Kafahara properties. Guruji sir also made a clear demarcation between the new and the old types of honey and different types of honey acting on the doshas. Here, Dr. Ishwar Reddy sir had made it a popular concept. Like in the inpatients, he used to definitely, in the prescription, in the case sheet, there used to be Madhudaka. In most of the cases of Vata Vyadhi, especially the Pakshagata cases, that is the hemiplegia and other cases, and also the facial paralysis cases. So in majority of conditions, he used to write Madhudaka should be given once in a day. Even if the patient cannot take, it used to be fed through the tube. So he was telling that also acts like not only the medicine, but also as a sort of food, it also acts like a diet, Madhudaka. So where honey and water are mixed in equal proportions. If Guruji sir wants to throw some light on this, I would request him. Thank you.
To add one more question, like hot water honey has become like a fad, and lemon hot water and honey has also become like a fad. Like modern diet gurus prescribe that. So of course we know that that is not so very much true. So question to Guru sir is that can honey, cold water and honey, can it be mixed with lemon to add a little bit of more anti-obesity effect?
Definitely, if honey at room temperature with room temperature water, and if you want to mix lemon juice to that, there will be no harm, and of course it is good. But provided only those persons who are not having any issues in the stomach, those who are having hyperacidity and gastric irritation or gastric erosion or ulcer, such type of patients, you should not, even those who are having GERD, should not use this combination as such. It may going to give a trouble to them at later stages. And one more point I need to add here is, see, when Acharyas have very clearly said heating a honey becomes a viruddha, it should not be done, and it is apatya. Very clearly when it is said viruddha aharas, what is a viruddha? Many times people ask, sir, you say that it is a viruddha, we have consumed it, nothing happened. Definitely, when you are young, your Agni is very strong and you have a natural bala in you, nothing will happen. But if you make it a practice of these viruddha aharas, on a longer run, your body also loses this strength, and one fine day you will not be knowing that when your immune system has just said, no, I can't, then you will have all sort of troubles in you. So that's the reason viruddha aharas should be avoided. So we need to understand that why that honey, it should not be heated and it should be used, it should be not be used in that fashion. So it is better use honey in normal room temperature water or simple cold water. Nothing will happen.
Dr. Shilpaji, please go ahead with your point.
Namaste to all, sir. Actually, when I was doing my PG thesis in Udupi SDM, I was doing the animal study. So during that period, I could evidence many of the studies which were going on about Viruddhahara. Among that, equal quantity of honey and Ghruta is considered, that is ghee and honey is considered as Viruddha, which was also being carried out during that period. So I could evidence that there were certain biochemical changes and also had effects on the vital organs after the animal was dissected. In the biochemical studies as well as when the histological studies, histopathological studies were carried out, it was found that there were toxic effects on them. So hence, even I think that there are certain studies that are being carried out even on heated honey and this concept also. So if we search, definitely we can find references. That is evidence-based, this thing we can show that it is toxic.
Thank you, Shilpaji. So if you can forward us the link related to this particular study, I think this is really interesting and you made a valid point here.
The point I want to add regarding the usage of hot water and honey is that what we have understood is that why it came into practice is like when we say about Ushnodaka, when we say Kapahara, the hot water that is reduced to 1/4 is usually termed as Kapahara. That is what we tell. And the honey is also having the Rukshaguna and the Kapahara action. So actually why it came to practice may be due to the reason that Ushnodaka, which is reduced, is Kapahara and honey is also Kapahara. So in combination, it reduces the Kapha or the Medas and it helps in weight loss. That may be the concept initially which was advised by Vaidyas. But later, the people started making it as it was warm water or cold water, that is, which is heated and later cooled down. But it was taken literally that hot water should be used with honey, and it became a misunderstanding, and that's how it came into practice. That is how I have understood that.
Here, I would like to add one more thing. Viruddhatva here, in terms of honey, is about direct heating the honey, like Madhu and Ushna Samskara. So this is what we can call it as Samskara Viruddha. So like the heat is not going in sync with the honey. So that is one thing. The extended study can be taken to honey added to hot water, honey added to hot coffee, honey added to hot tea or any hot beverages and taken. So if it is compatible or not compatible, or does it do the same harm Just like the heated honey in a bowl, directly heated on the fire and consumed. Does the other materials also have a similar bad effect? So I think this the extended part of study. So again, this is a courageous study for anybody to do. It will be Atisahasa. So as Guru Raja sir also said, I also concur with whatever he has said. Why to experiment on things which we already know, so has been indicated or contraindicated in the Shastra. As Shilpaji also said that some studies have shown the evidences of these things. Samskara Viruddha is actually, according to the Shastra, is limited to that particular point, a direct heating of honey. So honey plus fire is a horrible combination, I think, actually, and the extended portions can be taken to with the query whether a similar effect, similar bad effects can be seen or can be evidenced by adding honey to the hot water or any hot beverages. To give a comparison, in Amavata, Vrishchika Damshavat Vyavidhaiva Vrishchika, that symptom is given, the person experiences pain as if stung by a scorpion. Now, the person who is having Amavata, how does he or she know that the pain is similar to a scorpion sting if they haven't experienced a scorpion sting previously? Isn't it? So only those who have experienced the scorpion sting will be able to appreciate that particular pain, that it is of the nature of the scorpion sting. So here probably the simile is given, so the pain is so unbearable that the person is wincing as if stung by a scorpion. So that is the extended part of what we can understand. Here also the extension of understanding, apart from direct heating the honey, can be taken to the honey mixed with some hot beverages and consumed. Do they have similar bad impact, just like heating the honey directly on the fire? So for this, if at all the researches need to be conducted, the animal research, again, the poor things, I think, experiment on them have to be done. So human experiments, again, may prove to be dangerous. Thank you.
2 points here is that it is clearly like Viruddha Ahara. So it is related to food and it's not like a medicine. So that is 1 point. I think 2 things are safe to assume, that when it is taken as Ahara, like Guru Raja sir rightly pointed out, it is usually taken for a very long period of time. Continuously is one thing, and usually in a very high dose. So 2 things are understood. And there's a question that still it is not very clear whether honey is Ushna or Shita, or cold or hot. Guru sir, Kayadeva Nigantu says that honey should not be used by a person exposed to fire during heavy summer, extremely hot place, and honey also being anti-kapha in nature. Probably tends more towards Ushna, sir.
Very clearly, honey is Ushna. You just keep this one in mind. That's simple. No need to have a confusion. Honey is Ushna. That's the reason it is given in Kapha. Honey is Ushna. Because of that, it is also used in case of Vata Roga, because Vata is having Shita Guna. Honey is Ushna. That's the reason Madhudaka has been combination is usually gives result.
There was a question here regarding the Punarnava. Punarnava's use in diabetes. I checked all the references from all the major Nigantus. No one has indicated this Punarnava or Borahevia diffusa in the treatment of Meha or Prameha or diabetes. It's not mentioned. An extended question to Guru Raja sir is, but Gokshura is mentioned as Prameha Hara. Probably the reference is from Bhava Prakasha. In Prameha and especially in the diabetes, there is already polyuria problem. So how far this Gokshura use can be justified, and probably why Punarnava is not indicated?
First of all, we need to understand in 2 terms very clearly. Diabetes is not exactly equivalent to Prameha, what described in Ayurveda. Ayurveda Prameha and later Madhumeha is somewhat having a different area when compared to the diabetes of the modern. We need to understand that difference between these 2. Second thing, Punarnava is one of the important drug which is anti-inflammatory in nature and diuretic in nature. So it helps in Shotha. That's why Acharya Charaka has mentioned it in one of the Dashaimani, that is Shotahara Dashaimani, that is there. Such type of drugs are there. So this type of condition definitely is going to support the kidney tissues to do its function in a normal way, probably by expelling the contents through the urine. So this may be acting as a drug for anti-inflammatory purposes, and this drug may be used as a diuretic drug which can be used in case of Shota. So when there is really Shota, if it is more like in case of Pittaja or Vataja Prameha, then maybe as a supportive drug this can be used, but I don't find it's a right kind of choice to use a Punarnava in case of Madhumeha, because Punarnava has a special affinity towards the water to expel it out from the body through the form of urine. So when it is going to increase the quantity of urine, I don't think so it is the right kind of drug to use in a case of Prameha, because Prameha patient is already having an excessive urination. Polyuria is one of the important symptoms. So that's the reason I don't think so it is not the right kind of drug to be used in case of Prameha. But it is not a taboo that it should not be used. It can be used if any associated inflammatory signs and conditions are there where you can use it, and it can support the kidneys by improving the functions of the kidney. Because you know that in case of chronic diabetic cases or Madhumeha cases, then there will be some bad effect or the ill effect on the kidneys. So slowly kidney functions fails step by step. So there maybe it is supporting in that way. So that way you can use it, but not as a drug to be, for the purpose of correcting the rectifying the Madhumeha, rectifying the Pittaja. It only supportive drug. It can be used in that fashion.
Moving on to the next question. So this was regarding the Cumin variants. There is this Shweta Jiraka and there is Krishna Jiraka, and there is this Upakunchika or Kunchika explained. It becomes so confusing. Even in the Niguntus also, these terms are, especially the Krishna Jiraka and Kunchika, are used somewhere interchangeably in some extent. Can you please decipher this, Guruja sir, and explain the major benefits and differences between these three?
See, first of all, when we try to understand these Jiraka varieties, commonly available is these three: Shweta Jiraka, Krishna Jiraka, and Upakunchika or Kunchika or Kalonji, very popularly known. Other than this, there are still two in the market. That is what we are going to get a confusion. That's the Shahi Jira. Shah Jira, it is also called as Shahi Jiraka. And the other one is Aranya Jiraka. Shah Jiraka and Aranya Jiraka. So there are 5. So first one is Shweta Jiraka. Very clearly, there is no doubt the one which we use in mission, and it is usually pinpointed and it is elongated, centrally bulged, but there is no curve usually, and it is from the plant Cuminum seminum. There is no confusion at all. Very clear. The confusion starts at Krishna Jiraka. Whenever it comes to Krishna Jiraka, it is said that Kiram Karvi is the ideal one we need to take. It is sometimes even said as Kiram Karvi instead of that. Even Kiram Roxburgionum is also said as an adulterant, but it is better to take it as Kiram Karvi only. That is the black variety of Jiraka, or it's also called the black caraway seeds. And remember, both Shweta Jiraka, Krishna Jiraka, that is Cuminum seminum, as well as Kiram Karvi is from Umbelliferae. Very clear in that, there is no problem understanding. And even colors also we can make out very clearly. Little bit change in the color, little bit blackish in color, and of course they are curved, and they will be not so bulged like Cuminum seminum. Then comes Upakunchika or Kalonji, very popularly seen in the market. The black variety of seeds, it is somewhat triangular, pointed and rigid one. But there are adulterants in the market which is mixed with onion seeds. Kalonji is mixed with onion seeds. Very clearly we can make out. The onion seeds are slightly circular and compressed somewhat, whereas Upakunchika is somewhat triangular with 3 ridges and 1 point. So this is Upakunchika. It is also called as Kalonji, and it is from the plant Nigella sativa. And this Nigella sativa is from Ranunculacea, entirely different family. It is not from the Umbelliferae. Nigella sativa is from the Ranunculacea. But popularly in all Nigantus, these 3 are collectively called as Jiraka Tritiyas. This Jiraka Tritiya, Shweta Jiraka, Krishna Jiraka, and Upakunchika, that's called as Jiraka Tritiya. But all these 3 Jirakas are not from the same family. Shweta Jiraka and Krishna Jiraka is from the Umbelliferae, whereas Upakunchika is from the Ranunculacea, and 3 different plants are also very clearly we can identify. Along with that, next we have that is one is called as a Shahi Jeera in the market. It also looks like something like Krishna Jiraka, slightly brownish, bulged, somewhat carved, something like that. But it is a plant is entirely different, Bunium persicum. It's entirely different plant, Bunium persicum. From that, the Shahi Jeera is obtained, and it is also from Umbelliferae. Shahi Jeera is also from Umbelliferae. And the last one is Aranya Jiraka. I don't know for what reason, maybe for the looking similarity only Acharya might have kept the name as Jiraka, but it is not from the same family. This Aranya Jiraka is from Centrathirum and Helminthicum. Centrathirum and Helminthicum. It is from the Asteraceae, Bringarajacula, or Composita previously. So if you understand these 5 varieties of Jirakas, Shweta Jiraka, Krishna Jiraka, and Shahi Jeera, these 3 are from the same family, Umbelliferae. Shweta Jiraka is little bit comparatively lighter in color. Krishna Jiraka is more towards a black color. But only problem is many times this Shahi Jeera and Krishna Jiraka are almost similar looking. That makes the problem. But rate wise, Shahi Jeera is comparatively costlier than the Krishna Jiraka. And Aranya Jiraka we can easily make out a little bit, but somewhat looks like Jiraka, but it's comparatively bigger in size. But it can be identified easily.
So this is Aranya Jiraka, right, sir?
Yeah.
So this is more straighter than.
Yes.
2 more questions in this regard. Jiraka is very famous. We know its benefits in like digestive disorders, and Jiraka theristum is also used in like in postpartum care of the mother. And Krishna Jiraka or Keram Karvi, if my memory serves correctly, is told as Garbhashaya, Shodhana, etc. So is there any difference between the Kalonji in terms of qualities and uses? So where to use Kalonji and where to use these 2 other varieties of Jiraka, sir?
Definitely, very clearly Acharya said all these 3, Jiraka Tritiya, all the 3 are Lagu, all the 3 are Ushna, all the 3 are Katu, all are Kafahara, Vatahara, all are Pittala. Provided comparatively, Shweta Jiraka is milder on the body, Krishna Jiraka is a little bit more Katu, and Kalonji is still Katu, extra. So comparatively, these 3 things we need to understand. And Kalonji, many times in the long run, if you use, it will reduce your body bulk. It helps in reduction of the kapha in the body, and it helps in removing the body bulk. And there is a restriction to use Kalonji. It should not be used more. If it is taken in more quantity, then there is a possible of side effects of irritation, diarrhea, or something like that. So we need to be very careful in handling those things. Whereas Jiraka, of course, very commonly used, and comparatively more quantity also if it is taken, nothing will happen, but it improves the digestion process. It is more grahi, and of course it is Garbhashaya Shodhaka. Definitely that's the reason postpartum time usually that Jiraka is also given for the purpose of cleansing the Garbhakosha. And of course it is one of the important Gulma Haradravya. So it moves the Vata from its sthanas. Wherever it is, there is a Vikruta Vata. Vata has moved in a Udavarta direction or in a opposite direction where it is supposed to move in a direction which is just taken back, or there is some Vimarga Gamana. So in such conditions, Jiraka is one of the best drug to improve the Agni digestion process, assimilation process, because it's best Shoshaka, Grahi Dravyas. Along with this, you just see that Jiraka, Gajavipali, and these things are very important drugs in as a Grahi. Of course, Shahi Jeera many times used as a culinary substance, used it for the purpose of flavoring the dish. Aranya Jiraka is very typically used for the intestinal worms. That's the reason the even botanical name also suggests it is Helminthicum. It is again it's the helminth. And whereas this Upakunchika is also used in case of Garbhashaya Shodhana also, typically it is Rukshakara and it dries up the body.
And regarding the Kalonji, there is suddenly big hype in the market. It was probably created around 3-4 years before. This is kind of a trend in the modern diet supplement world. Suddenly they catch hold of one thing and blow it up out of proportion. Moringa is kind of superfood, and Moringa leaves, seeds, everything was advertised Kalonji is also from cancer to obesity. Yeah, I mean, it is useful, but it is told as a miraculous and magical remedy. All those things are told. And kombucha drink. So again, there is a big hype given to that. Kalonji extract has been studied in the breast cancer cells. It helps to inactivate breast cancer cells, it's told. Then again, particularly to be used in other types of cancer like pancreatic cancer, lung cancer, etc. I think it is safe to say that the Kalonji or Nigella sativa is useful, probably as a dietary ingredient, or may not be the main medicine for cancer, sir?
First of all, we need to understand certain things. We as Ayurvedic physicians or Ayurvedians, we are poor in marketing. We need to accept that. We are very, very poor in marketing. The same old things which are said in Ayurveda, but they are in Sanskrit, we are unable to translate them into a good type of English, the language the world accepts or knows. We don't know. The same thing has been taken from the Ayurveda and it has been put into a different set of bowls and different terminologies, and the way it is presented, it may be anything. Sometimes it suddenly the moringa comes in, sometimes even kalonji comes into play, and sometimes even cinchona bark will come, and sometimes bhumi amlaki will emerge as a super thing, and so many things. But they are very good in marketing. So we are lacking in that. We need to accept that. There is no harm. But second thing is, all these drugs are very clearly said in their guna, lakshanas and all those things. We need to understand with the perspective of what intention acharyas have mentioned and where it is used. And definitely if you start using them, you will find the results what as acharyas have described. Whether this is a main drug for cancer, it's very difficult. We don't know the stage of the cancer. In each and every event, see, is the same drug which is suitable for a particular type of cancer may not be yielding the result in the stage 1. Maybe yielding the stage 1, may not be yielding in the stage 2 or stage 3 or 4. Even after chemotherapy, many patient dies. It doesn't mean that then chemotherapy doesn't work. So it is very difficult to analyze on those lines. Kalonji is one of the best drug which can be used in certain conditions. All those conditions with the time tested and as well as dose fixed. You need not to increase the dose or extend the dose or go beyond that. Then we may have something as an adverse events. So that needs to be understood. That's why I said, what are the textual references in the Granthas, Samhitas, Nigantus, they are telling that let us utilize them in the same context with the same tempo. Let us utilize them. Then we try to analyze whether it is suitable or not for this generation or this century, the people of this nature, or whether this is not good for that, or whether it is good for anybody. All those things can be understood. And of course, it is once again a lifetime studies. It requires a lot of human resources.
Moving on to the next question, let me bring in Dr. Raghuram sir to this. This was a continuation of the last class discussion. There are particular places in which people put on weight very easily. It is very commonly seen that US diet, probably due to genetically altered ingredients that are being used, or probably this McDonald's habit of burger and other things, Burger King and whatnot. So some people who are like thin and well maintained in India, when they go to US, they complain of rapid gain of weight. This I have seen in Coda and other platforms saying that the same person who when visits Europe and takes European sort of diet, traditional ones, even the Italian pizza and whatnot, still he would be able to lose weight. But soon after coming back to US, all the lost weight sort of comes back. So how do you decipher this?
We need to study. So again, this needs a lot of research. How our US food is different from Indian food. Say whether this a person who has asked the question belong to India, different geographical condition, and they have gone to US. So the first part of life spent in India, for example, so they're used to the food habits and also the life activities and also the lifestyle herein. And once they go there, so we will leave the pregnancy apart. So in this particular case, so when you go to US or any other country, as you were mentioning, in some countries people are able to maintain their weight. In some places they are gaining the weight, and so much difference is coming. So Ayurveda has also emphasized the Bhumi Pariksha. So like examination of the geographical place and also the geographical condition. Bhumi is 2. So that is the geographical area in and around us, and also the Atura Desha. So that is the body, the physical body of the individual. So both these things need to be explained and examined, and we should see whether the geography is syncing with the geography of the person, or they are not syncing at all. So here very important is what are the conditions of living of the person. So in India, so probably we will take the person was staying in India, different lifestyle, different foods. Totally when they go to US or some other geographical conditions, things change, and the body, how it recognizes those particular foods, and also the lifestyle, what is the impact of those things. So we are a product of impact. The human being is a product of impact. So like many things happening in and around us, what are they contributing towards us, including our body weight, loss, gain, maintenance, all those things. And here we need to see how the physical compatibilities with everything happening in and around, and the mental compatibilities happening in and around. So for example, we will take a person living in India and working here, may not be having a satisfactory job, traveling for around 30-35 kilometers, just like in Bangalore, and doing a lot of physical activities, not getting the sleep, sometimes day shift, sometimes night shift. The food alterations are taking place, a lot of things are happening. Even the salary which is coming in is not good enough. So a dissatisfaction is always there. So probably some psychic factor or the mental factor is also playing a role in this particular condition. Condition number two, the same person shifts to US or somewhere. So with a better job placement, there is a little bit of comfort, a better position, a better earning, a mental satisfaction, a lot of rest, less of travel, less of exercise, and more of munching, more of food. So has a lot of time to eat caloric food, and a lot of other factors which are contributing to putting on the weight. Apart from these things, the prakriti of the particular person, if it is allowing the person to gain the weight. For example, a kapha prakriti person right at the birth may be plumpy. So like a healthy child, we can call it as, over a period of time. So with growth, the weight can come down, and the person may typically look like vata or pitta or vata pitta or pitta vata type of person. And when the conditions again are subjective, so that is the growth phase. So once again, when they come to the job and the sedentary activities and a lot of food options, many food options. So US, as we are speaking, the food options are totally different from what they are in India. So probably a lot of research need to be done there. And the kapha prakriti person example I was giving. So again, coming back to the third or the fourth decade, the person can gain weight. The person thinks that, so the people in and around thinks that this fellow has gained a lot of weight, but probably that is a weight gaining tendency which is carried deep inside the system. Right from the birth prakriti, the person has weight gaining tendency, and the gain of weight is may not be due to the circumstances and the situations and the food and the activities in and around. The weight gaining tendency supported by all the factors which can support the kapha, and also the kapha elements in the body. We know that kapha elements are so many, like there is rasa, mamsa, meda, shukra. So many things are supported by kapha varga dravya. So when they're supported, so obviously the bulk increases. So the weight gaining tendency, weight maintaining tendency, or weight losing tendency. I ask this to my patients, whether do you have a weight gaining tendency? Like if you're not exercising a bit and if you don't control your food, suddenly there is a gain in weight. There are some people, and there are some people, they don't do anything. They keep on eating a lot of food, a lot of options, and still they don't gain weight, as Dr. Heber was giving in the other example. So a lot of circumstances and a lot of situations, a lot of factors come into the play. I was telling what we are the people, so the human being is made out of the impact of many things going in and around. And of course, when we are speaking about the diet, there is a lot of difference between the Indian diet and also the US diet or somewhere else. So the pattern of the food, the content of the food, the impact of the similar food on the body tissues and the other conditions, the presence of mind, the saturation of mind, prasanna, atma, indriya, manaha, that particular context of being healthy, all those situations, and what type of life is going on, the physical activities and attitude, and also everything, almost everything contributing to our day-to-day life, whether they are favorable for a weight gain or favorable for a weight loss or favorable for maintenance. Many factors play into this particular game. And yes, thorough research need to be done in the demarcation of the dietic ingredients and their impact on many, only if we are speaking about diet, on the system. What type of impact they have? What is the impact of taking 2 chapatis and 2 burgers in a day on a similar person in 2 different conditions? Probably a lot of research need to be done. definitely there is a difference in the foods, the food patterns, and the way they behave. The behavior of the food once they go inside, the compatibility of the food with the body tissues, and the non-compatibility, all these things I think come into the game. So a lot of factors should be considered before deciding these things.
Thank you, Raghuram. So, regarding one point, it is true that in a stressful environment, some people gain weight, but most people under stress would lose weight, and when the stress is not there, they would not. And also, I found that this from focusforhealth.org. And one reason why the US and European food supplies are so different. For example, yellow dye is 5 and 6, red dye 40, blue dye 1, and caramel coloring, all FDA approved in the US as GRAS, generally regarded as safe. Therefore, widely used by the food, used in the food is linked to many disorders, neurological, ADD, ADHD, brain cancer, etc. But in most of the European countries, especially France, UK, and Norway, they are banned. So there is a US market, food market acts much on the lobby, and I mean, as much as I have read. So there could be a lot of food processing problems also contributing more to the weight gain issue. That is, I read somewhere that obesity rate in the US is more than 2 in 5 adults. Roughly 42% of people in US are obese. Guru sir, do you have any contributing points, please?
Definitely, we need to understand how we put on weight. First important factor is our nature, Prakriti, that is carried away from our lineage, hereditary factors supporting things. Because you may see that a family with a lot of nutritive food they're consuming at their home, one child is not getting up the proper weight. They have always complaint. They'll say that my out of 3 children, 2 are very good and very normal, but my last child is not at all putting weight. Such type of complaints will receive. So it's very clear. The first point number 1 is our Prakriti are the genetic factors what we are inherited from our parents, that is supporting, contributing. And you can observe that typically the obesity while describing, people make it as a 2 types of obesity. The European and American model of obesity is apple-shaped obesity, whereas the South Indian or the Indian variety is considered as a pear-shaped obesity. We have a typical tendency of deposition of adipose tissues and accumulation, and we have a typical tendency to develop. This is point number 1, that is from the Prakriti, we get it to things. That is our ancestor from our parents, we get some genetic information, how we should be. That is one thing, that is a prerequisite. Second thing is Agni. If you have a very good Agni, then only whatever the nutritive diet you give, that can be digested and absorbed, assimilated. If Agni is not proper, then whatever the thing you give, it is not possible. I have a patient from US, he is consuming everything, but he is unable to gain and cross 42 kgs. Doesn't make any sense. He uses all sort of things and he is unable to put on the weight. So Agni is more prominent. Agni is very much required. If a proper Agni is there, then definitely all the digestive juices we can get it, and then the absorption, digestion and absorption will take place. That's the one thing. Second thing, and the third point is atmosphere where we live in. That also influences typically our body weight. Very clearly, Acharyas have also said, in Visakha Kala, definitely we gain our weight, but in Adana Kala, we lose our weight because of the heat outside. In Rajasthan, which is comparatively hotter place, they consume a lot of ghee, but still the atmospheric condition is so that they don't become so much obese. It will be supportive to them. But such a quantity of ghee, if we use it here somewhere, definitely we will put on weight. We will definitely increase our lipids inside the body. So that is the need to understand that Prakriti also, atmosphere also plays a very important role. A same person may gain weight in Visarga Kala and may lose weight in Adana Kala. That is also one of the important issue. Then comes, as you already, Dr. Ram also said and you also said, Manasthiti. If you are having a very calmness and a very contented life, whatever you eat, everything will get settled, absorbed, and you will put on weight. And if you have got a lot of stress, whatever you consume, it will not be digested, it will not be assimilated, and once again they will be deprived, and that's why we are not putting on the weight. So these are the important areas we need to understand, that how a diet can influence, how a prakriti can influence, how a agni can influence, how a manasthiti can influence. So if all these together, so one person having sufficient agni has got a very good prakriti from the parents, no problem about the nutritious diet, and he doesn't have any stress, then definitely puts on the weight very easily. Whereas the other may not be having these type of things, then may face a problem in putting on a weight. So that's the reason. Just simply because there is a food, US food, which is nutritious, rich in that, doesn't make a person to become hefty or obese. And moreover, very importantly, we need to understand Mitabuk, Kshutabuk, So Aruk. That is very clear statement given by our acharyas. We need to consume only those which are conducive to body in a particular quantity, in a mita. Then only when we are hungry, then we are otherwise simply going on munching away, watching the TV. Definitely we may put on weight because already prerequisite Agni and the Prakriti is supporting. Definitely if you give nutritious diet, that will be body taking it and using it and storing it. So that is the reason when these 5 points, Agni and atmosphere, Prakriti, as well as your Manasthiti, if all supports, definitely we can put on weight even in India. It doesn't mean that only you can have a food burn. Of course, nowadays it is a globalization everywhere. Every food can be available, seen or obtained in any part of the world. So there is no such hard and fast rule nowadays regarding the European diet or American diet or Indian diet. Anything can be available any nook corner of the world.
Thank you. Victoria ji, please go ahead.
Last time you were speaking about Satkriya Kala, and my question is, in Samprapti of depression, very often it is Kapha predominant. And I want to understand what happens in Prasara stage, because in Prasara, we know that Pitta and Kapha are lame, they don't move. So it means that Vata has to move to Pitta and Kapha. And now I want to understand how it becomes Kapha predominant. Is it that Vata moves together with Ama and then blocks the Shrotas, and then that causes the Kapha to accumulate, and with Kapha aggravating factors, then it becomes Kapha predominant? How is this mechanism, how it becomes from Vata to Kapha predominant?
Okay, Victoria ji. So here I want to make certain things clear. See, Kapha is not all about causing the depression. So depression, when you are speaking about, there are also the Manasika doshas, especially the tamas factor playing into the role here. And when we are speaking about the Kapha, yes, the Kapha predominant vitiation, like in comparison to the Vata and Pitta, a predominant vitiation or aggravation of Kapha beyond limits will definitely, like it has reached the Prasara, it can be a contributory dosha towards the formation of the depression, but definitely the Manasika doshas also should come into the play. There is a lot of gameplay between the physical doshas and also the mental doshas, how they are interrelated and how they are influencing each other when they are severely aggravated, as good as how they are influencing each other when they are in a state of particular balance. So here, I think I did not understand your question properly, but you wanted to ask how Kapha is displaced in depression or whether Vata is taking place. Of course, for Prasara to take place for any dosha, maybe Vata is the primary driving force for the displacement of any doshas from one place of the body to the other. Even the aggravated Kapha is carried to different channels, different srotas, maybe an impact over the mind channels, that is the Manovaha srotas, what we can call it as the wrong translation there for the convenience of understanding. Vata is the primary driving force for these things. Definitely, there is no doubt about that. And the Raja property, the Rajoguna, which has been predominant in the Vata and Vata alone, these are the driving forces for any pathology, that is physical, mental, whatever it is there. When we go through a particular shloka, I think Dr. Hebbar would be sharing that Vayus Tantra Yantradaraha, that particular shloka, how Niyanta Praneta Cha Manasaha. So Acharya has said that Vata is the primary force which controls the mind also. So be it a balance or an imbalance, whatever it is there, the driving force will be the Vata, and which dosha it is pushing and pulling is very important. Kapha, yes, it can be pushed to different corners, different srotas or channels. The blocks can take place and they can have an influence on the tamasika doshas and other the manasika doshas. There may be physical and mental imbalances to cause depression or any other psychological condition or the mental conditions.
So it means
I
that in prasara stage, it's correct to say that it is vata with ama which moves to pitta and kapha, and only in, let's say, sthana sanchaya and yakti, then more kapha predominance can emerge.
Ama is subjective, Victor. So we need to see whether, Ama may or may not be included. So that is a different context. So Ama and Kapha, or Ama or Kapha, what you are trying to speak. So that makes a difference here. Ama is subjective again. So whether the Kapha aggravation has taken place, in which condition, how it has taken place, whether there was ama associated, or in disorders associated or caused by ama, like in amavata where predominant ama is there kapha aggravation takes place and that is mobilized along with the ama. So there are a lot. So that is why we have conditions like sama dosha, sama dhatus, and also sama malas. Ama can be associated with vata, it can be associated with pitta, with kapha, with the tissues, with the malas like feces, urine, everywhere ama can be there. That is why one of the synonyms for a disease is amaya. So that is that condition which has been caused by ama. So, and that is not a mandatory condition that all diseases are caused by ama. Ama may be involved, ama may be a triggering factor, ama may be a positive factor. We need to see which condition we are speaking about.
Okay, yes, thank you so much. This was really clarifying. So I could just say then maybe like that in Sara, vata moves to pitta and kapha, and then depending on
Prasara, Prasara is a stage which is actually initiated by vata. If vata motivates, only then the aggravated or from the prakopa stage, the doshas can be moved to the other places. If vata is not pushing them or pulling them, nothing is going to happen. Prasara is a stage which is compulsorily and mandatorily caused by vata. So vata is the driving force there. Without vata, there is no mobilization in the body.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That clarified a lot. Thank you so much, Vaidyaji.
2 points there is that from Raghuram sir's explanation and whatnot. So ama need not be present in all diseases, or I mean, it can present selectively in certain diseases only.
As you said about the ama, we may get a patient wherein the ama has already been resolved. Ama has already been resolved due to the Agni or whatever, the change of status, change of geography, change of many conditions. Ama has already been resolved, or the primary treatment or the home remedies, whatever the person has taken, the initial ama has been resolved. So we may get the patient in some other condition. So ama might have been present. So to diagnose whether the ama was present, ama was the causative factor, it is the worsening factor, it is a trigger, or is it associated with the disease or the components of the disease, it is left out for the Vaidya. These are the different stages of the disease to analyze.
Yes, sir. I mean, point well taken there.
Shall I add anything there?
Yes, sir, please.
See, first of all, we need to understand how that, in the way that the program says it very clearly, there are the terminologies which is used as amaya, that's fine. But particularly when ama is of a very important character in sharirika rogas, whereas it comes to manasika roga or the mental diseases, where instead of this ama, the more involving factor will be rajas, tamas and sattva. Those manogunas will be playing more. That is the point number one. Second thing, what the Victoria ji was asking there, in prasara, it may be for anything in the body, vayu is the only, vata is the only one which has a capacity to make the things to move. So it may be pitta, it may be any mala, it may be kapha, it may be ama, it may be anything. Vata is the one which is having the capacity to move it. In a condition, if any ama has developed, even that ama will also be moved to different doshik sthanas or the prasaravastha, and that will be initiated by the vata. Without the influence of vata, nothing can move in the body. That we need to understand. This is the basic line. If you understand this, there will be no confusion.